"We're giving your promotion bonus to your sister," my mother announced while cutting into her roast chicken. "Lauren has 3 children, Stephen. You don't. It's the only reasonable decision." For a few seconds, the only sound at the table was the scrape of my father's knife against his plate. Lauren stared down at her wine glass, but I saw the small smile she tried to hide. Her husband, Eric, did not even bother pretending to be uncomfortable. He leaned back in his chair and nodded slowly, as if my mother had just confirmed the results of a board meeting. I looked at each of them in turn. My mother's expression was calm and certain. My father avoided eye contact. Lauren tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and sighed dramatically. "I didn't want to ask you directly," she said. "I know how sensitive you get whenever money comes up." Sensitive? That was an interesting word for a man who had spent 6 years paying $1,800 every month to keep his parents from losing their home. I placed my fork beside my plate. "How much do you need?" I asked. Mom blinked. "You told us the bonus was $22,000. "It is." She nodded as if the matter were settled. "Then that should be enough to clear Lauren's credit cards and help with the minivan deposit. The children are getting older. They can't keep squeezing into that little car." Lauren finally looked at me. "You understand, right?" she asked. "You are doing well. You live alone. You don't have anyone depending on you." I had worked 14-hour shifts for that bonus. I had missed birthdays, holidays, and weekends. I had eaten vending machine dinners beneath fluorescent lights while waiting for dispatch to send us back onto the road. I had lifted strangers from bathroom floors, held pressure on wounds while blood soaked through my gloves, and delivered bad news to families in hospital parking lots. 3 months earlier, I had been promoted to field training paramedic and shift supervisor after 11 years in emergency medical services. The bonus included a retention payment, accumulated overtime incentives, and a leadership award from the county. I had planned to put most of it toward a down payment on a small condo. Nothing extravagant, 2 bedrooms, a quiet balcony, a kitchen with enough counter space to make breakfast before a shift without balancing a cutting board over the sink. For once, I had allowed myself to imagine owning something that was mine. My mother tapped the edge of her plate with her fork. "Well?" she asked. I smiled. "Of course." Lauren's shoulders relaxed immediately. "I knew you'd understand," she said. "You've always been the practical one." Dad finally looked up. "That's my boy," he said. "Family takes care of family." I nodded. "Absolutely." I finished dinner, helped Mom carry the plates into the kitchen, and even wrapped the leftovers in foil while she explained that Lauren needed the money quickly because the dealership was running a promotion until the end of the month. Then I hugged everyone goodbye. At 10:43 that night, I sat alone at my kitchen table with my laptop open and canceled the automatic $1,800 monthly transfer I had been sending directly to my parents' landlord for 6 years. 72 payments. A total of $129,600. I stared at the confirmation screen for a long time before clicking the final button. Then I logged into the employee portal for the ambulance service and removed every member of my family from my emergency contact list. My mother had been listed first since I started as an EMT at 23. My father had been second. Lauren had been third. I replaced them with Marcus, my longtime ambulance partner, and Mrs. Alvarez, the retired teacher who lived across the hall and kept a spare key to my apartment. After that, I changed the beneficiary on my workplace life insurance policy. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed. For the first time in years, I slept through the night without waking up with my jaw clenched. At 6:02 on Tuesday morning, my phone started vibrating across the nightstand. "Dad." I almost ignored it, but old habits are difficult to kill, I answered. "What happened?" "The landlord says we have 30 days to move out," he screamed. "He says the rent transfer was canceled. He says he isn't renewing the lease unless we pay the next 3 months upfront." "What did you do?" I sat up slowly. Morning light filtered through the blinds in pale stripes. My uniform shirt hung over the back of the chair, freshly washed and ready for another shift. "I canceled the transfer," I said. There was silence. Then Dad lowered his voice. "You what?" "I canceled it." Why would you do something that's stupid? I rubbed my eyes. I thought we agreed Lauren needed my money more than you did. That bonus has nothing to do with our rent. I disagree. Steven, don't play games with me. I'm not playing games. You can't just stop paying without warning. I started paying without being asked, I said. I can stop without asking permission. Dad breathed heavily into the phone. Your mother is crying. That's unfortunate. Don't talk to me like that. What would you prefer? Should I apologize because the money you told me to give Lauren is no longer available for your rent? It's different and you know it. No, I said quietly. That's the problem. I don't know it anymore. He started shouting again, but I ended the call, placed the phone face down on my nightstand, and got ready for work. By 6:45, I was in the ambulance bay checking our equipment, oxygen pressure, airway kit, monitor batteries, IV supplies, trauma dressings, medication seals. Marcus walked in, carrying 2 coffees, and stopped when he saw my face. You look suspiciously rested, he said. I slept 8 hours. He handed me a cup. Should I call a doctor? I think I finally stopped doing something stupid. Marcus raised an eyebrow, but did not press me. That was one of the reasons I trusted him. He had been my partner for almost 4 years. He knew when to ask questions and when to let silence do its work. The dispatch tones dropped before we finished our coffee. Elderly male. Difficulty breathing. 3rd floor apartment. No elevator. We were moving before the dispatcher finished repeating the address. That was my life. One moment, I was thinking about my parents' landlord. The next, I was climbing a narrow staircase with 40 pounds of equipment, while Marcus followed with the stretcher chair. The patient was 78, pale and sweating, seated upright on the edge of his bed. His wife hovered beside him in a faded robe, terrified but trying not to show it. Steven, Marcus said after attaching the monitor, take a look. The rhythm was ugly. I knelt in front of the man and kept my voice steady. Sir, we're going to take care of you. I need you to keep looking at me. His hand gripped my wrist. I don't want to die in this room, he whispered. You're not staying in this room, I told him. We're taking you downstairs for the next 20 minutes. There was no room in my head for guilt, family, bonuses, or landlords. There was only the patient, the stairs, the medication dose, the hospital radio report, the controlled urgency of doing the job correctly while someone's life narrowed to minutes. We transferred him into the emergency department alive and stable enough for the cardiology team to take over. Outside the hospital, Marcus leaned against the ambulance and studied me. You want to tell me what happened now? I took a drink of cold coffee. My mother announced at dinner that my promotion bonus belongs to my sister. Marcus stared at me. She asked you to help your sister. No, she announced the decision. Apparently Lauren has 3 kids, so she has a stronger claim to my paycheck than I do. And what did you say? Of course. Marcus waited. I canceled the $1,800 I send my parents every month. His expression changed. Every month for 6 years. Steven. I know. No, I don't think you do. He straightened. That's not helping with groceries. That's someone else's rent. It started during an emergency 6 years ago. I nodded. Marcus looked toward the emergency department doors, then back at me. Do your parents know what you earn? Roughly. Do they know what rent costs in this city? Yes. And they still asked for your bonus. They didn't ask. He shook his head. That might be worse. I had spent most of my adult life believing that being needed was the same thing as being loved. It was an easy mistake to make in my family. I was 28 when Dad lost his warehouse job after injuring his back. Mom worked part-time at a pharmacy, but her income was inconsistent. Their savings disappeared within months. When Dad called me, he sounded ashamed. "We're behind on rent," he admitted. "Just this once, Steven. I hate asking." At the time, I was working nights and sleeping during the day in a studio apartment with a broken air conditioner. I barely had enough money left after my own bills, but I picked up overtime until I could cover the $1,800. The next month, Dad still had not found work. Then the month after that. Eventually, the payment stopped feeling temporary. Dad found occasional delivery jobs, but nothing stable. Mom reduced her hours because standing too long made her knees ache. Whenever I suggested a cheaper apartment, she became emotional. "This is our home," she said. "Your father has already lost so much." So I paid the rent directly to the landlord, quietly. I never mentioned it at family dinners. I never reminded them when Dad criticized my career or Mom complained that I worked too much to visit more often. I told myself that dignity mattered. I wanted them to feel independent even when they were not. Lauren knew about the arrangement, of course. She knew about everything. She was 2 years younger than me and had mastered the art of making every crisis sound unique, urgent, and somehow unfair. When she got pregnant with her first child, I paid $2,400 toward the hospital bill because Eric's insurance deductible was higher than expected. When her second child needed dental surgery, I covered the remaining balance. When their washing machine broke, I bought a replacement. When the oldest needed school supplies, Mom called me before Lauren did. "You know how difficult things are with 3 children," she would say. The strange part was that Eric worked full-time in sales. Lauren worked 3 days a week at a dental office. They were not wealthy, but they were not destitute either. They simply made choices based on the assumption that someone else would absorb the consequences. They financed new phones every year. They ordered takeout 4 nights a week. They took weekend trips and posted pictures from hotel pools while I worked double shifts. Whenever I hesitated, Lauren played the same card. "You don't understand because you don't have kids." She was right about one thing. I did not have children, but that did not mean I had no future. It did not mean my body was not tired. It did not mean the money I earned belonged to whoever produced the most grandchildren. By noon on Tuesday, I had 17 missed calls. Mom left 3 voicemails. The first was tearful. "Stephen, honey, your father is upset. Please call us. There's been some misunderstanding." The second was sharper. "I don't understand why you're punishing us because Lauren needs help. We raised you better than this." The third sounded tired. "The landlord is serious. Please don't force us to beg." Lauren sent a text. "I can't believe you're doing this over a conversation. You said you understood." I typed a reply. "I do understand. That's why I'm making changes." She called immediately. I let it ring twice before answering. "What does that mean?" she demanded. "It means I'm no longer paying Mom and Dad's rent." "Are you insane?" "No. They could lose their home. They have 30 days to find a cheaper place. You know Dad can't handle a move with his back. Then you and Eric can help." She laughed once, sharply. "We have 3 kids, Stephen." I heard. "We don't have money for Mom and Dad's rent. Neither do I." "That's ridiculous. You just got a $22,000 bonus. A bonus you already claimed." "I didn't claim anything. Mom suggested helping me, and you agreed." "I did agree." "Then what is this little tantrum?" I leaned against the side of the ambulance and looked out across the parking lot. "This is not a tantrum, Lauren. This is a budget adjustment." She lowered her voice. "Don't talk to me like I'm one of your trainees." "Then don't talk to me like I'm an ATM. You're being selfish." "Maybe. I have children depending on me. So start acting like it." The line went silent. For years, I had allowed Lauren to raise her voice while I lowered mine. I had allowed Mom to cry while I apologized. I had allowed Dad to talk about duty while avoiding his own responsibilities. That day, I stopped participating in the script. Lauren recovered quickly. "Mom is devastated," she said. "Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Is that what you want?" "No." "Then fix it." "No." She hung up. I expected guilt to hit me immediately. It did not. Instead, I felt something unfamiliar. Space. Not happiness exactly. Not yet. Just space. The kind you feel when a siren stops after hours of noise and you suddenly realize how loud it had been. On Wednesday evening, Mom showed up at my apartment without warning. I had just finished a 14-hour shift and was reheating soup when someone knocked hard enough to rattle the frame. Through the peephole, I saw her standing in the hallway with her purse clutched against her chest. When I opened the door, she looked smaller than usual. Her hair was damp from the rain. Her eyes were swollen. "Are you going to let your mother stand in the hallway?" she asked. I stepped aside. She walked into my apartment and glanced around as if seeing it for the first time. My furniture was mismatched. The kitchen table had a scratch across one corner. The couch was comfortable but old. My television was 8 years old and slightly too small for the wall. There was nothing luxurious about the life she believed was endlessly comfortable. She sat at the table. "I don't know what has gotten into you," she said. I turned off the stove. "Mom, you told me to give Lauren my bonus. She needs it. And you need the rent. We do. And I need to start building a life of my own. Her face tightened. You have a life. No, I have a schedule. That's dramatic. I work, I sleep, I send money. Then I pick up extra shifts because I sent too much money. We never forced you. I almost laughed. No, you just made it clear what would happen if I stopped. She looked toward the window. Your father is ashamed. Dad called me screaming at 6 in the morning. He was frightened. So was I 6 years ago when I saw my savings disappear. We are your parents. I know. We fed you, we clothed you, we gave you a home. I was your child. That was your responsibility. She flinched as if I had slapped her. Then her expression hardened. You sound cold. I sat across from her. I'm tired, Mom. We're all tired. No. Listen to me. For once, she did. I have spent more than $129,000 paying your rent. That does not include the utility bills, the groceries, Dad's car repairs, Lauren's emergencies, the school supplies, the birthday gifts, or the hospital bills. Her mouth opened, but I kept going. I have walked into houses where children were screaming because their father was dying on the floor. I have worked car accidents in the rain. I have held strangers' hands while they took their last breaths because their families could not arrive in time. Then I come home, and the people who are supposed to care whether I am alive or exhausted only ask what else I can pay for. Tears filled her eyes. That isn't fair. You're right, it isn't. I worry about you constantly. When was the last time you asked how I was doing without asking for money before the end of the conversation? She looked down. Neither of us spoke. The silence answered for her. After a minute, she wiped her cheek. What are we supposed to do? Find a smaller apartment. Apply for the housing program I sent Dad last year. Ask Lauren to help. Ask Eric. Sell the truck Dad barely drives. That truck is important to him. So was my down payment. Her eyes narrowed. You already decided. Yes. And the bonus, I'm keeping it. For what? My future. She shook her head slowly. You've changed. I hope so. When she left, she did not hug me. I closed the door, locked it, and stood in the quiet apartment until my soup went cold. The family meeting happened on Sunday. Dad texted me the address of Lauren's house and wrote only 3 words. We need to talk. I almost ignored it, but I decided I wanted to say everything once. Clearly, in the same room, without interruptions by voicemail or selective retellings. When I arrived, Mom was seated on Lauren's sectional sofa with a box of tissues beside her. Dad stood near the fireplace with his arms crossed. Eric sat in an armchair, scrolling through his phone. Lauren remained standing, as if she were hosting an intervention. Her children were upstairs at a neighbor's house. That was probably the smartest decision anyone in the family had made all week. Lauren gestured toward the couch. Sit down. I'll stand. Dad exhaled sharply. Steven, stop acting like we're enemies. I don't think you're my enemies. Then what is this? I placed a folder on the coffee table. Dad looked at it suspiciously. What's that? My records. Lauren folded her arms. Records of what? 6 years of rent payments. 72 transfers at $1,800 each. Mom stared at the folder without touching it. I continued. I also added the larger payments I could document. Dad's truck repairs, your emergency dental bill, the hospital balance after Noah was born, the washing machine, the property deposit when you moved into this house, the school supplies Mom asked me to cover last August. Lauren's face flushed. You're keeping score now. No, I'm ending the game. Dad picked up the folder and flipped through the pages. His expression changed as he saw the totals. I didn't realize it was this much, he muttered. That's because you never had to. Mom pressed a tissue to her mouth. Lauren stepped closer. So what? You helped your family. Congratulations. Do you want a medal? No. Then why bring this? Because every time I tried to save something for myself, someone in this room invented a new emergency. My children are not invented emergencies. I never said they were. You act like helping them is some horrible burden. The burden is not helping. The burden is being told that my money is already assigned before it reaches my account. Lauren looked toward Dad. Are you going to let him talk to me like this? Dad closed the folder. Steven, no one is saying you haven't done a lot. You told me my bonus belonged to Lauren. Mom's voice was soft. I said she needed it more. You announced it at dinner like you were distributing an inheritance. You said, "Of course," Lauren snapped. I meant it. She stared at me. I nodded toward her. "You should have the bonus." For the first time, everyone fell silent. Lauren blinked. "What?" "You should have $22,000. Her expression shifted cautiously. "You're giving it to me." "No." Her face hardened again. "You just said, I said you should have it. So earn it." Dad slammed the folder onto the coffee table. "That's enough." "No, Dad. It isn't." I faced him. "For 6 years, I protected you from the consequences of refusing to adjust your lifestyle. I told myself I was helping you through a temporary crisis, but temporary became normal, then normal became expected, and expected became entitlement." "You think I enjoy taking money from my son?" Dad asked. "I think you became comfortable doing it." His jaw tightened. "I worked my whole life. So have I. You don't know what it's like to get older and have your body fail you. I am a paramedic. My back hurts every morning. My knees ache after stair carries. I wake up hearing dispatch tones that are not there. I am 35, and I already know exactly what it feels like when your body starts sending invoices." Mom whispered my name, but I did not stop. "I am not paying the rent anymore. I am not handing over my bonus. I am not paying Lauren's credit cards. I am not financing a minivan." Eric finally put down his phone. "Hold on. Nobody asked you to finance the whole thing." I looked at him. "Good. Then you can take care of it." He shifted in the chair. "We have expenses. So do I. Kids change the equation. You chose to have children," I said. "I did not sign a contract to subsidize every decision that followed." Lauren's eyes flashed. "You're jealous. Of what?" "Our family." I looked around the room at the framed photographs on the walls, the large television, the decorative shelves, the new espresso machine on the kitchen counter, the children's toys stacked in matching baskets, the glossy brochure from a car dealership partially tucked beneath a magazine. Then I noticed something else. A printed reservation confirmation lay beside the espresso machine. I walked over and picked it up. Lauren moved quickly. "That's private." I read the page. "A family resort in Orlando. 4 nights. Theme park passes included. The reservation deposit had been paid 3 days before Sunday dinner." I held it up. "You booked a vacation?" Lauren's cheeks turned red. "It's for the kids." "You booked a vacation before asking for my bonus. We've had a difficult year." Dad looked at her. "Lauren?" She became defensive. "It's not expensive. We found a deal." I placed the paper beside the folder. "You do not need my bonus. You need a budget." Mom closed her eyes. Lauren's voice rose. "You have no right to judge me." "I'm not judging you. I'm declining to finance you. After everything this family has done for you?" I almost smiled. There it was. The sentence waiting beneath every favor. The hidden contract. The debt no payment could ever satisfy. "I owe this family nothing more," I said. Dad stepped toward me. "If you walk out now, don't expect us to forget it." I picked up my coat. "That's fine. You would let your mother lose her home." I looked at him carefully. "No. I spent 6 years making sure she kept it. Now the rest of you have 30 days to make a plan." Mom began crying again. Lauren turned away. Eric stared at the floor. Dad's face remained red with anger, but beneath it I saw something else. Fear. Not fear of homelessness. Fear. Not fear of homelessness. Fear of responsibility. I opened the front door. Dad spoke behind me. "You're making a terrible mistake." I paused. "No," I said. "I made a terrible mistake 6 years ago. I'm correcting it." Then I left. The next month was quieter than I expected. Not peaceful. Not immediately. But quieter. Mom called almost every day for the first week. When I stopped answering, she switched to texts. "Your father can't sleep. Lauren feels attacked. I hope you're proud of yourself. Family should not treat each other this way." I did not respond. Dad left one voicemail. "You've made your point. Call me." I deleted it. Lauren sent a photograph of her children eating cereal at the kitchen table with the message, "They don't understand why Uncle Steven doesn't want to help Grandma anymore." That one hurt. For several minutes, I stared at the photograph. Then I typed a reply. "Do not use your children to pressure me. They deserve better than being placed in the middle of adult financial decisions." She did not answer. The landlord did not evict my parents. They moved. Dad sold the truck and used the money for a deposit on a smaller apartment 12 minutes away from their old townhouse. It had one bedroom, a narrow kitchen, and no separate dining room. Mom complained to relatives that I had forced them into poverty. What she did not mention was that the new apartment cost $1,050 a month instead of $1,800. She also did not mention that Dad started working 3 mornings a week at a hardware store, mostly helping customers and organizing deliveries. It was not glamorous, but it covered part of the rent without aggravating his back. Mom increased her hours at the pharmacy. Lauren canceled the Orlando trip. She and Eric kept their old car. No children were harmed by the lack of a new minivan. No one became homeless. The world did not end. It simply stopped revolving around my bank account. I kept the bonus. I transferred most of it into a separate savings account and scheduled an appointment with a mortgage advisor. I also did something I had delayed for years. I booked a session with a therapist who specialized in emergency responders. The first time I sat in her office, I felt ridiculous. I had seen things most people only encountered in nightmares. I had treated overdoses in public bathrooms and held pressure on wounds while families screamed behind me. Yet the sentence that broke my voice had nothing to do with blood or sirens. "I don't know who I am when no one needs money from me," I admitted. She gave me a moment before responding. "That sounds like a good place to begin." Marcus noticed the changes before I did. I stopped volunteering for every open shift. I started going to the gym again, not because lifting patients required it, but because I enjoyed it. I replaced my broken coffee maker. I bought groceries that involved actual cooking instead of microwave instructions. One Saturday, I drove to a hiking trail outside the city and spent 3 hours walking without checking my phone. It felt strange. Then it felt normal. 2 months later, I found a condo 15 minutes from the ambulance station. 2 bedrooms, a small balcony, enough kitchen counter space to make breakfast comfortably. The building was not new, but it was quiet. Sunlight filled the living room in the afternoon. The second bedroom could become an office or a guest room or something else entirely. For once, the possibilities belonged to me. I used part of the bonus for the down payment. The day I received the keys, I stood in the empty living room and listened to the silence. No phone calls, no demands, no explanations, just the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic below. I thought I would feel guilty. Instead, I felt grateful. 3 weeks after moving in, I received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was uneven. The envelope had my new address, which meant Mom must have given it to Lauren. Inside was a folded sheet of notebook paper covered in colored pencil drawings of an ambulance. At the bottom, my oldest nephew, Noah, had written, "Dear Uncle Stephen, Mom said you are busy. I hope you are okay. My teacher asked us who our hero is. I picked you because you help people when they are scared. I want to see your ambulance again someday. Love, Noah." I sat at my new kitchen table and read the letter twice. Then I placed it carefully on the refrigerator with a magnet. I did not call Lauren. I did not reopen the financial pipeline. I did not confuse loving my nephew with surrendering my boundaries, but I wrote him back. I told him I was proud of him. I told him heroes were not people who solved every problem for everyone else. Sometimes heroes were people who stayed calm, told the truth, and asked for help when they needed it. A week later, Dad called. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then I answered, "Hello." For a moment, neither of us spoke. His voice sounded different when he finally said my name. Not angry, not demanding, just tired. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I waited. I didn't understand how much you were carrying. You didn't ask." No. The word hung between us. "I should have," he said. I looked at Noah's letter on the refrigerator. "Yes," I replied. "You should have." Dad exhaled slowly. "I got used to the transfer. Your mother did too. At some point, we stopped seeing it as help. I know. That wasn't right. No." Another silence. "I don't expect you to start paying again," he said. "That's good. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." I believed he meant it. That did not erase 6 years. It did not rebuild trust instantly. It did not mean I would return to Sunday dinners and pretend everything was normal. But it was the first honest conversation we had shared in a long time. "Thank you for saying that," I told him. We spoke for another 5 minutes. Nothing dramatic. He told me about the hardware store. I told him about the condo. He asked about work. And for once, he waited for the answer without turning the conversation toward money. When the call ended, I stood on my balcony and watched the evening lights flicker on across the city. Somewhere in the distance, an ambulance siren rose above the traffic. For years, I had believed that saying no meant abandoning my family. I know better now. There is a difference between helping someone stand and allowing them to sit on your shoulders indefinitely. There is a difference between generosity and surrender. There is a difference between being loved and being useful. My family did not collapse when I stopped rescuing them. They adapted, they found jobs, they made budgets, they canceled vacations. They learned that my paycheck was not a shared inheritance. And I learned something too. I am still a paramedic. I still run toward emergencies. I still answer calls in the middle of the night and step into rooms where people are frightened and everything feels out of control. But I no longer treat every family demand like a life or death dispatch. Some emergencies are real, some are manufactured, and some belong to other adults. The most important thing I ever saved was not the bonus. It was not the condo. It was not even the $1,800 monthly transfer. It was the part of me that had spent years believing I needed permission to build a life of my own. I do not believe that anymore.